Welcome to In Such a Time, conversations on Jewish life, leadership, and meaning. Each week, Rabbis Jonathan Jaffe and Leora Londy explore the moments, questions, and ideas that shape who we are and who we aspire to be. And now, for this week's conversation.
Welcome back to In Such a Time. I'm Rabbi Jaffe alongside Rabbi Londy, and this is our first podcast that we're recording after the news of the horrific attack at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, on top of the lockdown at Brown and the murder of two students there. And so I think we want to begin today's podcast with a dedication and to dedicate today's conversation and hopeful learning in honor of all of those deceased there at Bondi Beach, continuing refuah shlema for the injured there, and also a tribute of heroism towards Ahmed al-Ahmed, the civilian who showed more courage than I don't know if any of us could ever muster in unarmed wrestling a gun away from a murderer and even taking bullets while doing so. So it's a solemn and it's a scary moment for the Jewish people. And maybe just start by asking you, Rabbi, sort of what's on your mind, how this lands on you. Where are you at in this moment?
I'm happy to be here in the synagogue right now where we're recording and feeling that this is as safe as the place that it can be for us, and being proud to keep showing up as a Jewish person every day. And I'm just feeling really the heaviness of it. Things sometimes hit me in waves. And so I heard about it and it was shocking. And then I started processing it. And it really hit me today in a very dramatic way when I was listening to the news and my daughter was with me in the car and she said, "Is it because they were Jewish?" Like all of a sudden it dawned on her that that could happen to Jews. And so that's just such an unnerving conversation to have. And she asked if we're safe. And she said, in Westchester, I feel very safe as a Jew. And I said, in Westchester, I believe that you are very safe as a Jew. But to not be able to reassure my child that they're 100% safe in their Jewish institutions that they learn in and in the synagogues and just being a Jew in the world in general, it's really disconcerting. And it hits hard this morning. How about you?
It's funny, I'm realizing a dynamic between us, and things like this happen, and often um, you're you respond with an emotional response, and I often respond with an angry one. And I think that
That's
says something,
emotional response.
right? They said that says something about us. So, and just want to add that we have two different congregants who reached out, mentioned that they had close family members there at Bondi Beach, and reminds us of the fact that we are one big family, and thank God all of their family members are safe. Um, I'm angry at the fecklessness of world leaders who, like Prime Minister of Australia, have allowed allowed all of the conditions for something like this to happen to fester without doing anything to stop it, to allow the fuse to be, doused in gasoline of Israel hatred, of Jewish demonization, and then to suddenly say, "Oh, we're so sorry that this happened to your community." So there's the first of just the feeling of emptiness, the vapid sort of gestures of condolence on days like this. That's my first place of somewhat anger here. It's sense of loss. I don't know if is this the end of outdoor Jewish large communal gatherings? That's what I thought to myself. They were on the beach, all doing this together. Can Jews still do this? Be in places outdoors. Do we need to have security restrictions? And I made me think of even when we were going to do a Yom Ha'atzmaut event last year, and originally we wanted to have it at an outdoor plaza, like at the train station, and security kept coming up, and we eventually had to move it to a synagogue because we needed to have it in an enclosed space. And is that just our new reality, or is this the end of beach celebrations, outdoor celebrations in the diaspora? Um, and then I have a third one. I gave you a little preview of my rant that has to do more with the internal frustration. But I want to, I'll say that for a second, just say for you, like, what do you think about this? Do you think that this is the end of Jews being able to celebrate outdoors?
Well, I think that the response in New York City was pretty admirable today, that all the Jewish institutions got more security so
Mhm.
that they could conduct their outdoor Hanukkah celebrations. I think that there's definitely going to be two responses. There's those who are going to say, no, we keep doing what we're doing and we're going to be outwardly proud. And there's those who are a little bit more self-preservative and saying, no, let's not stir the pot more than it needs to be stirred. I don't know where I stand in terms of both of those. I think the risk that I would take with myself and the risk I would take with my children are perhaps different. And some, I place that on a scale of when I'm feeling more in mom mode and more in rabbi mode. It's really disconcerting to be in this space, to even have this conversation. I mean, I feel like this is kind of a conversation that maybe we've had before, and we're going to keep having it. And it just feels so, I mean, I'm so over anti-Semitism. I'm so over it. It's like, can we move on already? And I know that that's not how the world works. The people are fixated on hate and fixated on putting
Jews
on
for some
Jews and
reason.
putting their hate on Jews. I think it's indicative of of something happening in the world order. I mean, Jews are the canary in the coal mine, and when something happens to Jews, then it's usually the pattern that leads to other groups as well. So I'm not really sure what this is at this moment that is indicating that there's going to be change in the world in one way or another, but something feels more stirred than usual. And if I'm feeling uncomfortable, and I never, like me as Leora, I never get scared of anti-Semitism. If I'm nervous, then I know that we're in a really weird and disconcerting moment.
I remember earlier in my life traveling to Jewish communities in the diaspora and being awed and saddened by the level of security that was maintained. I remember I once had the opportunity to do Passover Seder in Istanbul, and having to go through security there with passport and with, I mean, lockdown. So I felt like honestly getting into the UN would have been easier. Going to synagogue in Moscow and in St. Petersburg and just being like, oh my God, I can't believe these are what synagogues are like. And that's what our synagogue is like now.
It's not quite there, and I think some people would want it to be closer to that. What do you feel? Like, do you want it there?
A decade ago, when I first came to Temple Bethel, we had no security guards. We had a very nice elderly person sitting at the desk near the front who would buzz people in when they waved into the window.
Yeah.
That was it. And at my home synagogue growing up, I mean, forget it. Like it was open all the time. No doors, no shoes, nothing. And just the degree to which our lives have changed, and that the freedoms that I took for granted maybe earlier in life, that's our reality now. And I don't know where that goes. That does Bondi Beach mean another level? And are we willing to be satisfied with this and just agree to it? Say, okay, this is our reality. We're going to be Jewish in the diaspora, but I guess, well, our synagogues are going to have to be locked up like military installations. And oh, well, I guess we can't do things outside anymore because people might come and shoot us. But everything else is great inside, so come on in. That's where the anger comes from, of like the compromising that we have to do again and again just to live our lives as Jews. And again, looking at any Russian church in America right now, where Russians can walk in there and have it completely disassociated from the military and the government in Russia, and that the unquestionable double standard of how we are attacked and being held accountable for what any Jew does in the world, but of course only for the bad things that Jews do. It puts me in a real state of frustration.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think we can go in circles on this. Like, here's my fear about all this, and we've discussed this before. I don't want people's Jewish identity to be reactionary to being persecuted.
Right. I am Jewish because
they hate me. I am Jewish, and I wear my Genda V to show them. Look at, like, what are you showing?
Yes.
And we go back to this again and again. Like, let's base this on who we are. Let's lean into ritual. Let's lean into study. Let's lean into being proud because there's substance, not because we're being defiant. You want to be defiant? Great, be defiant, but be defiant with knowledge, be defiant with a sense of identity. And I'm just annoyed that identity and anti-Semitism have been conflated.
Right, and this goes back to the high holidays. I was using the term reverse Marano, that a Jew that is staunchly Jewish in the public square, but when they return home has no Jewish foundation behind it. That we are most Jewish when we're puffing out our chest because someone hates us. But if that persecution went away, would we have anything to nourish us underneath that? I think that's a real worry in moments like this. And I think that the fact that people at Bondi Beach were going out there just to go celebrate Hanukkah as families. And also, maybe this hits me a little bit more personally because the image of being at the beach at Hanukkah,
Mm.
that's my childhood. Like, that's for many of us who look at that, like, what are you talking about? A Hanukkah beach thing? That's so strange. Here, we're recording this as like the wind and snow are blowing around outside.
So depressed looking out there.
Exactly. But like, that's what I would do. Hanukkah at the beach is a very, like, that's my, so I feel like it's my childhood that they're attacking as well.
You know, one of the strange things in this moment is that Chabad, because they are so adamant about who they are and they'll never back down from being public figures and emissaries and representatives of the Jewish people, for the good, for the bad, for whatever it is, they're the ones who are finding themselves victim again and again in Mumbai, now in Bondi Beach,
Away.
and yes, in all of these places. And I'm in some ways I'm like, okay, you have to take a little bit more precaution. In other ways, I'm like, wow, good for them for never backing down from that. And I wonder if people are moved by the fact that they never back down, or if people are going to lean more into let's being a little bit more secure. I mean, that's certainly a conversation that exists within our community between us. How much risk do you take for being Jewish? And there is so much written text and conversation throughout the centuries about Jews who were being persecuted and asking rabbis, including the Rambam, like, we're being persecuted right now. What do we do in order to hold on to our Judaism, but also stay safe? And the text, the conversation between Rambam and these Jews of the various places, including in Spain and in Morocco, is you have to do what's necessary to stay safe, but also make sure to hold on to your Judaism. So there's even a question: if a Jew is asked to convert to Islam in order to stay alive, Rambam says, yeah, of course you just say the words that you need to say. It's different than converting to Christianity, but of course you say the words you need to say, and then you go on being Jewish. You have to do whatever you need to do to stay safe, the pikuach nefesh, like saving your soul. But at this moment, I feel that people are also really moved by the idea of resilience and standing up. And so I'm curious, like, what do you think a Jew needs to do right now? Do we need to be resilient? Do we need to stand up? Do we need to take things into our own hands? Do we need to be quiet, I'm not saying cower, but, quiet ourselves a little bit more in order to just get through this moment? What if a congregant wrote to you like someone wrote to the Rambam, what would you say to them?
Sure. I love to step in the Rambam's shoes. I think it's interesting to note that this is one of the real fractures and schisms between traditionally Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jewry, that when the Ashkenazi Jews of the Rhine River Valley, of Mainz and Worms, when they were confronted with convert or die, there was mass suicide, and there are stories of martyrdom and the lifting up of martyrdom, even to some Ashkenazi Jews feeling as though Abraham had made a mistake by not killing Isaac, and they were going to sacrifice themselves as the Isaacs of the world to win back God's favor to the Jews from the Christians. And that was actually a theology of the time, versus the Sephardic, with Rambam, idea that no, pikuach nefesh, life comes first, and even if it's just muttering words that you don't actually mean, that you convert because you need to preserve the life and pass it on. And so there's this real change between the two. I go back to my idea that I think that the best response to anti-Semitism is to live authentically as Jewish. I think that Omer Shem Tov shared that incredible story at the end of his speech about the mother of the hostage being called by Hamas and saying, "You need to go out there and you need to protest more. Your boy is in our hands, and you won't get him back if you don't go up in the streets and protest against your government. And the mom responding and saying, what are you talking about? My boy's not in your hands. My boy's in God's hands. And God, and you're in God's hands too. And him responding with kol hakavod, giveret, like much respect to you, woman. That this idea that again, non-Jews take Jews who treat their Judaism seriously as seriously themselves, and that non-Jews respect Jews who respect their Judaism. And that's something that I really feel very strongly, that it's not about going out into the streets necessarily, and again, and puffing the chest and demonstrating that I'm very Jewish outwardly. It's that making sure that, like, internally in what I do and every day, my day-to-day interactions and how my family interacts, like, that it is a strongly vibrant Jewish home, because that's really where Judaism's kept alive.
Yeah, underneath the mask needs to be real. You can't just live with different hats and masks on. You also have to have what's true inside of yourself.
Well, and I think it touches on something specific for our community, that being a more assimilated Jewish community, we have this incredible privilege of masking ourselves and walking around in the non-Jewish world and being able to pass by. And I think that we need to show, and I think you're speaking of Chabad this way especially, but I think for Orthodox Jews overall as well, I think that we have to have a bit of humility and a bit of a understanding of the extreme privilege we have of not being outwardly presenting as Jews at all times. And that for those Jews who wear kippah and tzitzit, outward, that they are at all times outed 100% Jewishly. And I wonder how we would act differently if we knew that we couldn't mask ourselves the way that we do, and how the world might treat us different. Because I think that there's sort of an acceptance of, oh, if you put your Judaism away, then you can walk around and be part of the streets and be part of the public sphere. But that's part of this assimilating vector or pressure that you can be Jewish, just don't be too Jewish and don't be Jewish around us. And I think that that's something we have to have real, like, that's a dialogue in our own community. And if I can, like, that's, I'll go on my little internal rant now.
I've been waiting for it.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm just kidding.
I think that a lot of the non-Jewish world has this caricature of Israel as this militaristic dystopian, like from the Terminator. Did you watch the original Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger? You know, they show the vision of the future, and it's like death and destruction robots and Hunger Games, of this authoritarian, militaristic society, and that we should be scared of Israel. And the people who are in Israel, they're all scary, bloodthirsty mongers, and that's exactly that's what Israel's like. I think to some degree that messaging has been internalized by members of the Jewish community. And I say that because when we talk to fellow Jews about going to Israel, visiting Israel, living in Israel, sending your kids to study in Israel, there's this fear of, like, oh my God, like, that's such an unsafe thing. I think that they've been fooled by this caricature. You and I are not, I would say, well, I'll speak for myself. I'm not like a hugely brave person, right? And yet
you can speak for me too.
My daughter is in Israel right now for the past 4 months. We sent her while the war was still going on, honestly, weeks after the Iran conflict ended. But that is because you and I have both had the ability to go beyond this ridiculous caricature, spend significant time in Israel, and be like, oh my God, it's a bunch of grandpas playing paddle tennis in Speedos on the beach. It's women's walking groups happening, and Pilates clubs and knitting clubs. And, like, yes, there's all of the hustle and bustle of Israel as well, for sure. But it is not this Terminator caricature, militaristic, crazy society. And when I talk to American Jews about spending time in Israel, and they mirror back this non-Jewish characterization of the world. Is it safe? Can I go there? I hear that there's missiles. Oh my goodness, what's it going to be like? And I tell them that my Israeli family, when I tell them that I live in New York, they say, oh my God, New York? They push people off of subway tracks. People get murdered there every day. How do you live there? It's so unsafe. And so I have this frustration with a latent acceptance, diaspora Jews, of this non-Jewish caricature of Israel. And if we're going to push back on this canard of Israel as this fundamentally different militaristic society, I think it has to start with us. And actually, I think it starts somewhere earlier than that. I think it connects to the American fetishization of Israeli militarism. And we talked about this
Like all the
before.
t-shirts.
That this going to Israel to go sit on a tank and go hang out with the hot soldiers, and then the T-shirt of "Don't worry, America, the IDF is behind you." And we have like amplified in our mind this idea that Israel is all about war and tanks and missiles because that's what society's telling us.
No, that and because it's a comforting narrative in a post-Holocaust world to say, "Oh my God, thank God there's a military." It like we've taken something that we should be thankful for, and that Israelis are, I think, have a lot of awe and respect for the idea that there is a military, and it's a huge and immense privilege to be able to serve in it. And us Americans who don't really know how to deal with like a non-victimhood version of Judaism have put that on a Messiah level pedestal,
Yes.
And worship it. And I think it makes Israelis, it's bad for us. I agree. It makes Israelis feel uncomfortable.
Some Israelis love to make market off of this, right? They make hey, come to visit our IDF station and visit the soldiers there and come look down. Can you believe that the Hezbollah fighters were right there 30 meters away?
But I think there's something pretty empowering about that.
Yeah.
For diaspora Jews, because we've never been in that place. We've never. I'm
tough Jews. We like the image of tough Jews.
I'm trying to put myself in that place right now as an Israeli. I'm trying to see from the other perspective. There's something moving about knowing that there is a military, and again, we glorify it, and maybe in a perverse way. But there's something comforting to know that after 6 million Jews were killed, oh my God, we have one of the strongest militaries in the world. So again, I agree. It's become like an avodah zarah. It's like become like pagan worship, idol worship. However, it comes from a place of being amazed by the fact that shouldn't happen to the Jewish world ever again. October 7th has showed us that that's not true. Where our current situation in the diaspora shown us that that's not true. And it's important to never place anything, especially values that are really troublesome, to put military values above everything else. Like you have to bring it down.
But I think you have to cut yourself off from your own personal experience to make that jump. We live in.
Yeah, I am doing that.
I'm saying, like, in our country, we live in a country in which we are currently just bombing boats outside of Venezuela, and where there are, at the average university, you never know if someone's going to drive with a gun and start shooting at students. Like, if there's a country that is like closer to the Terminator 2 kind of vision, it does.
I wasn't meaning to say that Israel is like that. I'm just trying to understand where people come from in terms of finding that to be an empowering narrative.
My frustration is not with you. My frustration is with fellow American Jews who live in America with no problem and look at Israel and say, "Oh my God, how could you send your kid to study there?
Yeah, totally.
I can't go visit there. It's just not safe enough." And are willing to mitigate all of the risks living in our country. And if you sit down and look at the data about, life expectancy and murder rate and death by terrorist rate, even the death rate in America, it's far more dangerous to live in New York City than it is to live in Israel. And that's and thank God for that being the case. So let me add two pieces together if I can then. So on one, we've got the privilege of that we can kind of mask ourselves and not show ourselves as Jews. The other half, we've got this sort of acceptance of a non-Jewish caricature of Israel as being this really unsafe, militaristic place. And then the frustration for me, those two meet together when it comes to where do American Jews choose to go on vacation, send their kids to study abroad, retire, all of these things that when we talk to our families here at the synagogue about, hey, your kid should do a gap year in Israel. Hey, your kid should do study abroad in Israel. I might as well be telling them that they should go study on the moon. I mean, it's completely unfathomable to them. And yet to study in absolute epicenters of Jew hatred of Ireland, France, Australia, Amsterdam, Barcelona, like these are countries in parts of Western Europe and in Australia where you you can pretty much rest assured that at just about any time you're going to be surrounded by people who have pretty bad feelings about Jews, animosity towards Jews, certainly animosity towards Israel, and either wish you weren't there or wish that there was harm being done to you. And it's only by virtue of the fact that are able to mask ourselves and blend in and not stand out as Jews that we can go to Dublin and have like a nice weekend and go drink, a Guinness and have a pint together, but just know that the people around you, if they knew actually who you were, would not be very happy that you're there. On the average, not saying that these entire areas are fully anti-Semitic, but these are now modern day epicenters of Jew hatred. And I would say that if you didn't have the privilege of masking your Judaism, would I rather stand in a street corner in Jerusalem with a kippah on or in Barcelona with my kippah on? I'll pick Jerusalem in a heartbeat. Um, and yet, for our families, there seems to be, I wonder if there's going to be a watershed moment of these things like Bondi, Australia, where Jewish families in the diaspora will say, I'm not sure I want to send my kid to Sydney, my Jewish kid. I'm not sure I want to send my Jewish kid to study abroad in Copenhagen. Like it seems like they really aren't very happy with Jews over there. And I'm either going to look at Israel or I'm going to look at areas where they're not epicenters of Jewish hatred. I'm going to send my kid to go study abroad in Prague and Copenhagen, in Prague and in Krakow, excuse me, in Central Europe, which currently does not have the same infection of pure Jew hatred that Western Europe does. Rant over.
It was a good one.
Thank you.
I'm processing that because again, I want people to want to send their kids to Israel because they're proud of being Jewish, not as a reaction to impending anti-Semitism. So we're not impending to existing anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. So I come at it from both directions. Like I think it's important. I think about it more and more now that I'm here longer and longer. Israel is a modern day miracle. We've dreamt of it for thousands of years, literally. It exists now. Why wouldn't we want to spend time there? Why wouldn't we want to see it? Why wouldn't we want to be a part of it? Our
ancestors would have given everything to have this opportunity.
That, and what I think is so amazing about Israel, and again, I can be a big critic, and I could do that because I've lived there and I love it. But what's so amazing about Israel, and I think that this is a different perspective, is that you can make a difference there. And visiting there, you can make a difference. Living there, you can make a difference. It's a scrappy society in the best way, where you learn how to be an entrepreneur. You learn how to make things happen. You learn how to turn a desert into a habitable land. You learn how to start a company. You learn all of these things.
Bring people with like 60 different languages all to one.
It's a melting pot.
And have them come resurrect together.
It's a lab. It's really it's a lab. It's a greenhouse. It's hard as hell. It's hard as hell to live there, and complicated and beautiful. And I don't want people to send their kids to Israel because they don't have any other choice. I want them to send their kids to Israel because it's a wonderful place to invest your time in and to invest your resources in. And I think that one of the really cool things about being in Israel is that you become connected to people from all over the world, which is, my kids have said to me, it's so weird that everyone at school speaks English. And I said, what language would you like them to speak? And they said, I don't know, like Russian, French, Spanish, Arabic. And I said, why would you assume that they speak those languages? Well, at our other schools, people spoke all the languages.
Right.
And I just thought that was a really interesting perspective. It's so multicultural. It's so creative. And again, it's family. Like, you have to invest in it. It's going to be complicated. It's going to be tiresome, and it's going to pay off. You're going to feel so good. And the best food you've ever had, the best beaches you've ever been to. And so okay, not the best beaches I've ever been to. They're pretty good beaches for what they are.
They're darn good.
They're pretty, yes.
It's not Hawaii.
The pretty best beaches that speak Hebrew.
Fantastic. I think Panama would have something to say about that. There's like all Hebrew-speaking resorts now there that are
in Thailand.
Yeah, that's exactly.
It's okay beaches. They speak Hebrew there, and you can be yelled at by a lifeguard in Hebrew. So, but in all seriousness, we can't be reactionary Jews. We have to be Jewish because we're proud of being Jewish. We're thoughtful about being Jewish, and it will make you feel that. You'll feel more connected to without the fluff of it. Like I feel like sometimes like we create the square and we don't fill it, we don't color it in. And okay, so let's color it in.
But I guess in my own recipe of what it means to be an active and sort of grounded Jew, that a connection to Israel and spending time in Israel, that's sort of one of the essential
I agree with you.
ingredients of it. I'm not saying that people should stop traveling anywhere else because we're going to be scared Jews in the world. I'm just saying that when I say to a family member, to a congregant here, oh, your kid's studying abroad, would they consider London or would they consider Israel? I would like those to be like held on equal ground. Huh, that's an interesting choice versus, oh, London, Israel, are you crazy? Like, why would I do that? I just want them to be like in the same conversation with each other. That would be like enough for me. And by the way, I want to give it as another caveat here. Comes to vacations, sometimes maybe you just want to go to the Caribbean and go to an all-inclusive resort and sit on the beach and check out the world and have a book. God bless. Fantastic. I'm talking about when you're saying I would like to go to an international urban center and I would like to look at world culture, world cuisine, world history. Like Israel is right up there with like everything you would ever want. They're like if we just took all of our congregants who spend time going to Greece and directed the flight a little bit further south and east towards Israel, right? You get the same good things going for you there, like, and so much more because you're there, like, as part of your family. And I just one last level of frustration. Here's the crazy thing to me. There are people that I myself have brought to Israel or have gone to Israel and have been able to go past the facade. It's like going to Wakanda and there's like the fake jungle, but you actually, if you know the secret, you go in and you actually get to Wakanda. Are you with me on this metaphor here?
I've seen.
They've been past the mirage. They've seen the actual Israel. They've walked the streets freely and they've eaten the food and talked to the people and hung out at the beaches and had the non-militaristic experience. Then they come back to the United States, and it doesn't take that much time for them to once again assimilate into this caricature of Israel as a scary place. And what they'll say instead is, "Oh, we just got really lucky. We were there at a very peaceful time." You hear that all the time, and let me finish. Like, you weren't there at a peaceful time. You just saw past the caricature, and that's what it's always like. True. But are there ever times where there are wars going on and then people need to go to a bomb shelter, which Israel has created in abundance to be safe that way? Yes. Yes, that is absolutely the true. But our grandparents had to, stop, drop, and roll underneath their desks in the 50s because like they were afraid a nuclear bomb was going to come from Cuba or something. Those are the extreme outliers. And if you take the scary days where it's scary to be alive in Jerusalem, and you compare them with the days where it's scary to be alive in New York City, I'll take Jerusalem any day. And even for the people who go past the Wakandan mirage, they come back, and because they hear it so much from the outside, it's only so much time until they just say, oh, thank God we were just lucky. That kills me.
Okay, but there's another way you can look at this, and I'll play devil's advocate.
Please, be the optimist.
I was going to be the optimist.
Oh, I need it.
That when you go to Israel, you are seeing certain things. You're not seeing all of the things. Like you're not seeing sometimes it's easier to have distance from like the militaristic.
Are you talking about tourists or me particularly?
Tourists.
Oh.
When people,
because you and I, I'm sure, have had experiences where we've been able to see some of the harder, some of the more controversial, challenging parts of Israel.
But what I'm saying is it's easier for people to see the glory and the wonder and the fantastical nature of it when you're there and you're living in color. Then when you come back, you will still want to be connected to it, but the conversation that is connected to it is that of security. So I think that that's people's way of showing love and concern for Israel is by saying like, oh, I'm scared for what it is. I'm scared for what it's doing. I think that's an iteration or an expression of love.
But I think that even if well-intended, has corrosive effects as well. So then what happens to younger Jews that grow up and say, What are you talking about? Israel is like fragile and scared. Israel's a nuclear power. Don't you see it attacking all of the countries around it? Everything you told me about Israel is a big lie. And Israel is militaristic, not because it has to be, but because it wants to be, and because it has to dominate the countries around it. And that's where you get like these JVP, like young Jews who feel like I've been lied to. My whole years in religious school, you told me Israel was so fragile, and it's the David against the Goliath. And look what they're doing. And it's all part of the same discussion on militarism. And I think we would be much more better served just to say it's just a country like every other country. It's got good days and bad days. But the average person on the average day goes to work, goes to school, goes to the cafe, does their thing just like any of us would do.
You don't have to convince me.
I have to
I'm
convince the
there.
congregants of this somehow, who, whenever I tell them that they should go to Israel and they should even more so take their children to Israel, look at me like I have three eyes. I need to do something about that.
I mean, I think that when you connect the religion, not just the peoplehood aspect, when you connect the religion back to Israel, saying this is what we are about. This is the fundamental core, as you said, from a religious perspective, and then a peoplehood perspective, and then an aspirational sovereign state, nationhood, fulfillment of our own desires and dreams perspective. When you build on those layers time after time, I think that's how you get to it. And I think that is the work that we are doing to get to that. I would just want to say one thing about being a Jew in the diaspora. We need both Judaism in Israel, and we need Judaism in the diaspora. And Judaism became what it was in the diaspora.
Playing from TDE, Rabbi Jaffe.
The intellectual aspect of Judaism grew and developed in conversation with Judaism in Israel. And so there's always been, it's not one over the other. It's both have to empower the other to be safe, to be thriving. And so we care that Israel is safe, and we care, and we want people to go there to be proud of being Jewish, to support the state of Israel. But it's interesting, Israelis also need a safe diaspora in order for them to feel safe, in order for them to feel more grounded. And I think that what you said earlier about your family in Israel saying to you, are you safe in New York? Are you safe walking the streets? It's beautiful how Jews from all over the world, like this moment of the perilous and crazy nature of this moment has made, perilous is probably the wrong word, but has made me feel like the Jewish people are such a family, that we care about one another throughout the world, that Jews were murdered in Australia and we're mourning, that Jews are looking to light candles in New York. Like, it's just so amazing that we continue to be. It's amazing that in spite and despite, we're still lighting candles on this Hanukkah. I mean, I think that that's miraculous. I think it's miraculous that there is a diaspora that thrives. I think it's miraculous that there is an Israel that thrives. And so I know that we have to keep reinstilling in ourselves the values that keep us going. But I'm ending this a little bit more hopeful than I think you are today.
No, and I really appreciate your optimism on this, and I guess it's funny because we veered towards talking about Jews being safe or not safe when they go to Israel, and we began with Jews being safe, not safe here in the diaspora, and whether or not there is still such a thing as a safe Jewish community in the diaspora. And as we've seen, Jewish communities in Western Europe being increasingly threatened, and we're seeing Jews in Australia being increasingly threatened, that America is sort of the holdout at the moment, and it's feeling not as safe for us American Jews as it used to. And so I guess that's when, all the more so, like if you feel like going to Israel is something that is too dangerous for you to consider, I would ask the person to then consider, is it so safe where you are?
Yeah.
And that's not such a hopeful, optimistic statement, but I think it's a one based in realpolitik. And I think that, again, 10 years ago, when you could waltz into the front door of Temple Bethel and say hi to the octogenarian at the front desk there, and then go visit with whoever you want, you could say that America is a lot safer I don't know if I'd say that about the diaspora community at this moment. And if we're pretty much in the same boat when it comes to the realistic dangers that are facing us, then maybe that gives us more of a reason to go visit one another more often. I would say another just last thing is that I think that we often accept as American Jews that life is fragile, life is random. Any day I can step out the front door, I get hit by a bus, and we take risks when we walk outside the door every day. And that the question is, what are the reasonable risks that we're willing to take in order to live the lives that we want to live? And for me, the idea that spending time in the one Jewish state as that being too much of a risk to take on, I think that I would urge people listening to this to reevaluate the calculus around that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And something that I just want to share is that people have come to me and have asked me about information for Aliyah in our community.
Absolutely.
People have said that they want to buy apartments in Israel just in case, and that they're looking at those options. And so this is not an invitation for Aliyah. If you want to make Aliyah, if you want to move to Israel, I would always be happy to assist in whatever that means. But I think the very idea that Jews in New York are having that discussion in our engaging with those fears out loud, not just within, is really something to sit with, to unpack, and we welcome those conversations with us as well.
The comedian Yishai Yohei Sponder.
Yochai Sponder,
Yeah, has this great bit about what Zionism and not Zionism. He says that if you come from a crappy country to Israel, that's not Zionism.
Yeah.
You're moving up in the world, right? You're going to somewhere with a better economy. If you're coming from Yemen or from Ethiopia and your life wasn't that great, you're coming here. But real Zionism is coming from America and moving to Israel. If you're going down a notch economically or even equal economically, that's true Zionism. And I wonder that if the situation in the diaspora will continue to descend and life in Israel continues as is, basically, is there ever will there remain under Yochai Sponder still Zionism at all? Will anyone be considered moving down, or will everyone eventually be moving up?
Mannion, very interesting.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining us on In Such a Time. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. To learn more about Rabbis Jonathan Jaffe and Leora Londy, or to connect with Temple Bethel of Northern Westchester, visit bethelnw.org, or follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Temple Bethel NW. Thanks for listening.